Welcome back everybody to Dan Has Fun with me, Daniel. Some more Europa Universalis 4, the Bologna Baloney. Where we're playing as our little orange nation. It's going a bit like a weed. But we're still fairly small in the grand scheme of things. First video of a new batch, so I thought we'd have a quick look at the world around us, well, the world that we know, just see how everybody's getting on. So, pretty standard England, they're slowly incorporating parts of Ireland. They haven't managed to get to Scotland yet, mainly because they're allied to France. France also looks pretty normal for this time period. Hasn't gone after Brittany yet. Most of Provence is still around, it's actually doing fairly well for itself. King of Burgundy hasn't died yet, so he's still kicking, and so the Burgundian nation as a whole. We just got out of war with Castile, Aragon, and Venice. It was pretty tempting to keep that war going to try and drag Castile into some further issues, but we only have a maximum of 20,000 manpower. They still have 46,000. I think over time it was just going to become more pain for us than it was benefit. We might see for a war in the future, though. We should be better placed next time around. Meanwhile, in the middle of Europe, we are in the interesting scenario where we're allied to Austria, Bohemia, and Poland, even though the first two hate each other, they're rivals. We'll want to keep a close eye on that. In the east, Poland and Lithuania not combining in a union means that Muscovy has been eating great chunks of Lithuania, and now the Golden or Great Horde is doing the same thing. We have an independent Kiev, which apparently is a vassal to Poland, albeit they don't like Poland particularly. So that could be a bone of contention as well. We'll want to keep a very close eye on that. Meanwhile, the Ottomans have eaten a lot of their wimpy neighbours that they start the game next to, and I imagine they're going to start eyeing up the Mamluks anytime now. We're kind of hoping this isn't just a one-sided disaster, but most games, the Ottomans wreck the Mamluks pretty quickly. It would be better for us if it was fairly balanced. But I don't see it happening. Most games the Ottomans eat the Mamluks pretty thoroughly, like they did in the real world. Let's hope not. Well, let's hope that's slow and it keeps them distracted. Realistically, if we end up forming Italy, we get claims on quite a lot of the land in this area. So it would be nice if they didn't just wipe everything and cover the whole area. It's very, very dangerous. They're arguably the most dangerous nation the AI will play as. Let's also just hope that Hungary doesn't get eaten alive by the Ottomans, so they don't sit right pretty much on our, well, at least on our naval border. We don't want that. So, end of the last episode, like I said, we declared peace with Venice. We took a couple of provinces. I left all of the kind of maintenance items that we would need to do this episode. So let's go through them in order. We need a new rival. Yeah, I imagine we have a lot of options, and we do. Florence, you're still allied to France. You are, so you're not the most tempting of propositions for us trying to get hiccups while on recording. That would be awesome. Already had to do this as a second take, because legitimately within 10 seconds of me starting the video, one of the dogs upstairs just went into like a barking fit. They must have seen somebody walking down the street or something. So I think, great, we'll try it again. At least they did it early. We're going to rival the Papal States, given we're not getting any... Well, I was about to say Pope points, but that's not quite what I meant. Papal influence. Because we've got the big old -10. So we will never get any Papal influence ever again. Not that that's an issue. It's just a thing we have to deal with. Would be nice to take a lot of Papal land. You don't want to take Rome, though, when you're Catholic. You get one heck of a penalty. Apparently we have an army abroad. Yeah, it's still in Aragon, but it's coming back, so that's great. We can afford a new technology. We're still ahead of time, though, and we're not going to be in war straight away. So we're just going to wait. Our war exhaustion is high, but that's going to tick down by itself, so we don't need to do anything. We do have some unrest in the two new provinces. What is their autonomy looking like? 40 and 40, so we are not going to suppress those. We're just going to take our army over there, just to make sure when the inevitable revolt happens, at least we're prepared. We do have a new decision we can make. And we can formalize the separation of powers, which we can do because we have stability of, well, 3 in our case, but you only have to have it at 2. We're at peace, and we have a statesman. If we do that, we just get more prestige for the rest of the game. Why would you ever not pick that? There we go. So we're good on that front. We do need to core, though. Oh, that's an expensive couple of cores, but we'll get that set up. As a result of that, how many ideas do we have left for military? Just a couple. I'm going to flip it so that we focus on admin points, just so we can catch up a little bit. I'd rather have more points to core with than necessarily getting the military tech immediately. We'll just time our wars around when we get our military tech. Not particularly tough. We could become Defender of the Faith if we wanted to. Interesting. The more nations that follow a religion that can have a Defender of the Faith, the bigger the bonus is. So right now, for example, it would be a tier 5, which is the highest it can be. There are a lot of Catholic nations at the start of the game. We could do this and we get a whole load of bonuses, including morale of armies, which is possibly the most important one. Manpower in true faith provinces is pretty good too. The rest, they're okay bonuses, but they're not deal breakers either way. We're not going to do it because it means you are honor bound to defend a Catholic nation if they're attacked, and we do not have the capacity for that. What we do want to start doing, though, is we want to start building more naval units so that when we invariably go after Venezia at some point, that we at least stand some chance of at least defeating the Venetian navy. We won't be able to take on all of their allies' navies at the same time, but at least it would be something. So we do want to start doing that. What is our naval capacity right now? 17. So what we're going to do is we're going to start building some galleys. They're not the best in terms of, firepower in the sea. The heavy ships are. But here's the difference. This costs way, way less. And we're going to be in an inland sea. And galleys get big bonuses in inland seas. So that they're usually more cost effective in the Mediterranean anyway, from my own experience. So we're going to get 5 of them just so we have them ready. Bohemia no longer has them rivaled. This is a new session, so we're going to get a lot of pop-ups. Actually, not as many as I thought we were going to get. I did also tweak the settings of this game before the start of this session, because I noticed when I was editing some videos that the previous batch of EU4 got a little bit choppy in places. I don't have the most, high-end technology to work with. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I don't earn the big bucks doing YouTube stuff. I don't actually earn any money doing the YouTube stuff. I do it purely as a hobby. But it just means that, I have good equipment, but not top tier. So I did dial a couple of things back a little bit. We'll see if it's performing any better, and if not, we'll revert back to where we were. Not a big deal either way. I am tempted just to get a claim on Venezia immediately, even though it's going to have to be 14 game years before we can go after them again. And we will have to wait until the 28th. So we'll do that, just so we have a claim on Venezia. I'd like to have one. Because we might, or we might not be able to afford to take that province in the next war. We don't know yet. We also know that inevitably our alliance with Milan will end up breaking. But we want to at least delay that as much as we can. They want 1,000 H soldiers. I'm not happy about it, but fine. We're not going to be in war for a little bit. That's why we're on speed 4. We're really just assessing our options. I would love to go after Florence, and if they were allied to pretty much anybody except France, it would be doable. France is pretty much the only nation in the area that would be really tricky. The Ottomans too, but I'm not worried about any of these guys being allied to the Ottomans. Big religion penalty, so it is very unlikely that that will happen. Hungary is still not allied to anybody of any importance. They're not in a junior partnership with Austria, which would be good and bad for us if that happens. Yeah, Lithuania. Oh boy, Lithuania's at war with the Ottomans as well. Well, we are going to have some fair Ottoman land up here, which is Not great, mainly because we're allied to Poland. I wonder if they have Kiev under control. Well, their liberty desire is under 50%. So if you have a vassal with less than 50% liberty desire, that's fine. They'll pay you, they'll be supportive. The second it hits 50, though, they can turn into being disloyal. And they'll just sit in their own territory and they won't pay you. If they get too high, they'll become actively rebellious and start looking for other nations to support their independence, and then you might end up with a war on your hands. Not so great. Muscovy is attacking Denmark. Actually interesting, the Livonian Order in a lot of games just gets creamed by Denmark straight away. That has not happened in this game. The Livonian Order is still hanging around, although their alliances are still rubbish, as they typically are. Allied to a one-province minor, and Scotland, which is about as useful as a one-province minor. Military expenses. Ooh, that's so tempting to gain one Republican tradition. No, it's not. We'll take the money hit. Speaking of money hit, we have enough money now to either go for another batch of galleys. How would we go over the limit if we did that? Let's see what buildings we can get. Can we build a good manufacturer yet? Not really. Yeah, we definitely want to get our workshop on the paper producing tile, though. We'll get a church in Modena. And I don't usually build shipyards because I don't really focus on the naval side, but in this game that might actually be pretty helpful. So we're going to build one in Ravenna because it has 2 open building slots. Just because in this game we're going to invariably end up in conflict with at least Castile, if not the Ottomans as well. And we're going to need to be able to pump out some ships and not have to spend so much money that it bankrupts us in the process. There's the first galley being built. The Veronica. Now we have 3, the Amelia and the... I can't pronounce the other one. I regret my decision trying to explain it immediately. We might as well enable army drilling before our rebel faction gets up to 80%. Mantua is still trying to ruin our day. We could probably deal with them. We should maybe get a claim on that. Once we get the claim on Venezia, we'll get a claim on Mantua and then possibly take them out, because I'm not worried about Switzerland particularly. And the Papal States, they do have 13,000 troops. Well, Switzerland even have 14. It wouldn't be a complete walk in the park. So if we can get a couple of our allies in, that would be awesome. Just because I'm worried that if it's just Bohemia, they might take too long to get there. Oh, that's inconvenient. Our spy was caught. As a result, it reset to 25. But that's okay. Let's have a look. That development is bugged out, I guess. But we can at least fabricate a claim. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to let our spy come back because he's going to be sitting there twiddling his thumbs anyway. And we're going to send a covert action against Mantua. The only one province minor left in Italy. So they should, like I said, they themselves will be a fairly easy walk in the park. Really the question is would Bohemia be able to get to protect us before we get our day ruined? Because they hate Austria. We'd have to make sure borders are open with Austria so Bohemia can get them. So if we can get Milan in, that would be preferable. They only have 9,000 troops, but they're in a very good location to keep us safe, at least temporarily, from Switzerland. And we have been chosen. Austria gave us 10 prestige. Thank you, I appreciate it. Grand Ball in Bologna. Are we losing prestige? We're still gaining prestige. I'm going to spend the money. I also want to check how much aggressive expansion do we have across the board. So the Papal States is at 43. Milan's at 13. Florence at 45. If these two end up together in coalition right now, that's a little bit dangerous, because theoretically, if Florence is the war leader, they might be able to drag France in, which would be terrible. And as we've seen a few times, France is completely uninterested in, allying us because we're allied to Austria and they hate them. Having said that, it should mean that if France ends up trying to attack us, that Austria will be more inclined to defend us. So it's not all bad news. Okay, this tech is now cheaper than standard to get, so we're going to get military tech level 8, the pike and shot. It's not a massive difference, military tech level 8, honestly. 9, however, is very helpful. You get new infantry, you get more tactics, and your combat width is a little bit wider. So that altogether is a massive change in how much firepower you've got. So we definitely want to get that as soon as we can. We could get our second innovative idea, but we're not going to do it yet. It just gives us an increase in innovativeness gain. We're already at 30. That's pretty good. It means all of our power costs are 3% reduced. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that adds up over time. Eventually we can get up to a maximum of 10%, which is significant. That plus 30 relationship with the Papal States is irrelevant. Oh, we just completed a mission. What did we complete? Build buildings. So we've built at least 5 churches and 5 workshops. Doing that means we get 50 administrative points, which is awesome. And we get a bonus called Building Spree for 25 years. So it's just more tax income. Of course I'm going to say yes. The next one sucks. You have to get at least 2,000 gold. And I'm not very good at sitting on money. I feel like if it's just sat in your pocket, you got, need to do something. But we'll see. We'll keep an eye out on it. Do we want to build anything else right now, though? We could get... So the building we just unlocked, the regimental camp, it just increases your land force limit. I tend to build these a lot more often than the naval equivalent. +1 doesn't actually sound like a huge amount, but when you have lots and lots of money, and preferably lots and lots of manpower, that can be very, very helpful. Our limiting factor right now, though, is definitely going to be our manpower. It's capped at just under 22,000, which is tiny. So we're going to at least try and increase that a little bit. We'll get 3 of those out. And to think, if we hadn't gone for quantity ideas, our manpower would still be around the 15,000 mark, which is terrible. Well, we're definitely not going to go for the 10 papal influence option, so let's take money. Any option that gives us papal influence might as well just say you're getting nothing at this point. Just because we lose so much every tick that it's never worth doing. Meanwhile, if we look over here, I want to see what happened with this end war. Oh, our Doge got cruel as a trait. That's terrible. National unrest +2 across every province. That's a horrible trait. It's one of the worst. Yeah, Lithuania is now actually carved in 2 with Kiev sat in the middle. So that's not great. Not great at all. It's not great for them. Could end up with a pretty big Muscovy looking at this, well, a big Russia. They already have some land that I know Sweden would be claiming. We could end up with a really big Russia. That's a terrifying thought. Unless really big Russia and really big Ottomans end up at war with each other constantly. That could be beneficial for us. Finally get admin tech level 8. We have another decision that we can do to pass the Act of Uniformity. Everybody in this religion gets that option at tech level 8. And it's just a case of, do you want to make it more expensive to embrace a new institution in return for having better missionaries? We do not. At least not right now. When you turn into a big nation, the cost can be so ludicrously massive that it almost always is a bad idea to do that. What is our naval capacity at now? 18? Still, I guess we should top these galleys up then. We can do one more, actually. We can have 9. We just need to make sure that when we do end up going after Venice, that we can at least hold out against their navy, just so we can cross into Venezia. That's the hope. We should only need 20. Yep, 20 to claim that province. I'm not going to keep my spy there. We don't need to, so that's fine. What is the development of this province? 22. It's a pretty big province. It also has a market town in it, which makes it very helpful from the trade perspective. They are in the Venetian trade node, which is of great interest to me. If I was to attack them right now, Switzerland would come in, the Papal States would come in. Milan would only come in if I promised them land, which is interesting. But Austria would also come in. So that's pretty good. Let me have a look, just have a think about it for a moment. Nice little jump cut in there. This is why I don't stream. There's way too many distractions in this house. I got a call, and then I had to scan some paperwork and send it. Anyway, that's done now. I believe what I was saying before is that Milan would join in on this, but only if I offer them land, which clearly we're not going to do. But because it's only a -12 difference, what we could potentially do is use 10 of our favors, get Milan to prepare for war. That will increase their positive by 20. And that would mean theoretically they would then come into this. The only reason why I'm hesitating is because I don't want our aggressive expansion to get too high. And I would like, if I could, to take land off the Papal States. I mean, the alternative would be breaking their vassal away from them again. You know, the Urbino land we could take as, you know, at least splitting them up. We couldn't take them as a vassal, but we could at least split the land up a bit. But I'm not convinced that's worth doing either at this point in time. So we are going to wait just a little bit. It gives Milan a chance to deal with its massive manpower issue anyway. They only have 2,000 men spare, and considering they only have an army of 8,000, it means they can't really reinforce. So we are going to be patient. I'm not very good at being patient, but we are going to be patient. We're at least going to wait until our manpower gets close-ish to the cap. We're gaining 205 men every month, so, you know, course of a year we're getting about 2,500. So, a couple of years' time we should be ready to roll, give or take. I'm hoping that might coincide with these rebels. That would be nice. Maybe it'll go that way, maybe it won't. I guess we should use this diplomat in the meantime. I guess we'll just have him buddy up to allies. Just get those relationships up. Poland's not at war, Bohemia's not at war, Austria's not at war. The Ottomans are at peace as well. Our truce with the One Province Minor has ended. Doesn't really matter to us. France isn't at war. None of the big European powers appear to actually be at war. Only Denmark against Muscovy. That's the only thing going on. There's some barracks. How much are we getting per month now? 214. Slight improvement. Muscovy has 52,000 troops. Denmark has got 22. Sweden's got 16. That's going to be tough. I mean, technically Norway will get involved too with 11,000, but it's going to be a tough one for them. People are laughing at our army. That's very rude of them. I think it's done pretty well, honestly. Done pretty well, but they disagree. Florence has their spy on us, which is not a huge surprise. This is why we have to have the three nations here all allied to us, because, again, if Florence attacks us, they're probably bringing France in. We're not that far away, really, from the French border, so they're not going to get much of a, you know, far distance away from me war penalty. So it is something we need to keep a close eye on. We also have to make sure that we are very, very aware of when Castile is going to try and absorb Naples and Aragon, because that will eventually happen if they don't rebel. And having Spain actually directly control Naples, not great. Not unless we want to get into war with the Ottomans. But the AI doesn't do that as often as I would have thought it would. But it doesn't do it frequently for some reason. Has our naval force limit gone up yet? No. Actually, we're building one more than we should be, technically. We'll pay slightly more for that last galley, but it's fine. We're definitely going to get this quantity idea. Increases our garrison size. Honestly, not hugely relevant. But we do definitely want to get the expanded supply trains. That 10% less land attrition massive at making sure your manpower lasts. And then having land force limit modifier plus 50% is going to be huge. That means our army would become pretty competitive with the size of Bohemia. We'd still be massively outgunned by Austria and Poland, but it does mean we'd be able to defeat, you know, one-on-one the Papal States pretty comfortably, which is really what we're looking at. Still at 50%. I could intentionally antagonize this revolt to make it happen. So you can provoke it. The downside to that is when you provoke a revolt, naturally, the revolt is going to be bigger. So it would be a 13,000 rebel stack instead of 15,000. But it might still be an interesting option. We are getting close to our manpower limit. I actually think that's what we're going to do. So we're going to stop drilling. Allow our morale to go back up to full gas, and then we will, you know, insult all the rebels' mothers or whatever it is that you do in this game to provoke them, and we will deal with that problem in a couple of months' time. I'm going to take the prestige hit because it's going to bounce back naturally. Parliamentary problems. Well, we could get another states. Well, actually. Yeah, our statesman would leave, we would get another statesman to replace him who would be half price, and we would lose Republican tradition. Or we can gain Republican tradition, but lose stability. Well, we're definitely not going to do that. So, bye, current advisor. See you later. We are definitely going to replace him with Francesco Bianchini. He's Orthodox, which is interesting. It's nice that even if he's a different religion, you can still theoretically promote him. So you can spend money to make an advisor go up one in terms of their skill. So right now we have a +1 admin, a +1 diplo, and a +2 military. We could make a +2 diplo. All these guys are half price. So it is very tempting. The only reason why I'm not going to do it is Ludovico Poma is 55, so he has a 10% chance of dying this year, and it will go up as time goes by. And I do want to save quite a lot of money, because when institutions come out, I want to be able to pop them pretty much as soon as they become available, and I want to be able to reinforce my navy as soon as I get the option to do so, and get as many naval buildings out as possible. We'll take some more free money. It's nice that we can actually keep these forts up, and it'll help us with our military tradition. We're only losing 0.19 a year, which is pretty good. Yeah, we're nearly getting the maximum out of fully maintained forts. You can only get a maximum of 1 in terms of the equation there from a fully maintained fort. We're at 0.94. It's based on how much development you have. So the more development you have, the more forts your society feels you need for them to be safe. And by extension, I'm sure that in the game, we don't see it, but those in the garrison and the forts are training and things like that. So we have to make sure there's enough of them being adequately trained. Denmark must be out of their war for them to change their rival, because you can't do that mid-war. Venice, when's the timer on them? 1504, so we're still 9 game years away. This war did end. Yeah, Muscovy is just gonna eat the Scandinavian land. I don't actually mind this happening. My concern, though, is that eventually Muscovy will eat pretty much all of Lithuania, and then they'll be bordered to Poland. They will definitely not ally Poland, if history playing this game tells me anything. And then they could be big and terrifying. Really, the only saving grace for us is that Muscovy, because it's going to be so big and it's significantly further east, they will tend to tech relatively poorly. Whereas the Ottomans, they kind of adjust close enough to mainland Europe to usually get away without teching particularly badly. We'll have to keep a close eye on it. Fairly big Armenia, that's cool. They're a Coptic nation, so they are a type of Christianity. Type of Christian, but not one that you will see in Western Europe. Okay, we can provoke this revolt now. So, we want to go to... where is it? We could technically provoke another revolt. as well for Friuli, but we'll deal with that afterwards. We're going to provoke this revolt first. We should easily cream these guys, although they actually have more tactics than us, which is interesting. They have higher discipline, 105%. We only have the base amount, which means we're probably going to lose quite a lot of men. Yeah, we did. We lost about 3,500, give or take. So I am not going to provoke the other war yet, but I am going to move over to the province that it is in, because I don't want it to fire before I'm ready. They will have slightly less troops. Again, it's to do with development. Treviso is a more developed province than Friuli. Just spotted a load of land. Over time, as different nations spot land, you'll eventually start to see it yourself. So now we can see the west coast of Africa. And right now, there's not a lot going on. I'm going to start seeing more and more, because this is where the AI tends to investigate first, so we'll start seeing more of this coastline. I didn't do a random new world, predominantly because, well, we're not really a colonizing nation. Is it possible to colonize as Bologna? I'm sure it is, but we're not exactly optimally located. So at election time, just remember, our current guy is 336. He has one great trait and one absolute butt trait, and he's 42. So we can, if we keep him, he'll become a 446. We lose 26 Republican tradition, and you can get a few extra monarch points. We can go for the 3 generic options again, which I don't see us doing a huge amount. Or we can lose just 10 Republican tradition and replace our ruler with a 5-2-1. If that combination was another way around, so if that was like 2-1-5 or 5-1-2, I'd be tempted, but having 1 for military doesn't do it for me. So we are just going to take the tradition hit. We gained points in military, which is actually perfect. We are now going to get our final military idea. So there we go. So we've got 10% less land attrition. Because we completed quantity ideas, you get 50% more land force limit modifier. Milan wants money for favours. I am perfectly fine with giving them that. I am loaded. Might actually be able to do the 2,000 gold and get it out of the way early. If we can get one more idea from the admin group, we can actually get tolerance temporarily of the true faith +1. This gives us +1 of, well, -1, I guess, technically to unrest. But we're not going to do that yet. We are going to probably provoke. We'll give it 1 more month. Oh, yeah, Mantua is no longer a valid rival for us. Not really surprised, they're tiny. Well, I'm definitely not rivaling Austria. Tunis I can't really get to. Switzerland, I can't take any land off right now. Savoy is hated by Milan, but they're not really a really great option for us to pick. Provence are just a bit too far away. Obviously, we're not going to rival our ally. That would make no sense. So really, it comes down to Florence, really. I guess we'll rival them at this point. We don't need to embargo them. My power protection is at 98, but we do want to get rid of our costly embargo. So when you rival a nation that is, it's great to embargo them. There's really no consequence. But when you embargo somebody who is not your rival, you actually lose trade power yourself. So it's not worth doing most of the time from my own experience. Anyway, I'm going to wait 1 more monthly tick. I don't actually need military power right now, so I'm going to take mercantilism. Make more money instead. I'm going to wait 1 more month, let that tick. We should end up then with nigh on a full complement. And we're going to get this rebel faction. We're going to provoke them. Get that all squared away. They're going to get the penalty because they're attacking me, which is why I wanted to sit there first. I only lost 2,400 troops that time. Not too bad. And then what we're going to do, we're going to wrap this episode up now. We don't have to worry about any rebels. And then next episode, we're going to decide, are we going to go after Mantua? Or are we just going to wait so we can beat up Venice some more? Should we build some more buildings to get more ships? What should we do with Domenico, our diplomat? those questions and more next time around. If you want to stick around, subscribe to the channel, it'll be easier to remember. And yeah, as always, appreciate your time. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care now.
Thank you for watching the video.